everybody! Today we're going to do a really fun finish with the Happy Holly Days Punch Needle Plus Kit by Kimberbell. I have an unboxing of this on my channel. I'll link that below, as well as videos teaching you how to do punch needle and some other punch needle finishing videos. You can see I've already completed my project, and when you use one of their kits, once it's done like this, it's done. You can stop here. But today we're going to make a pillow. I've never made a punch needle pillow before, so you'll get to see me try this for the first time. Let's go over all our supplies. The first thing we need is our completed punch needle. I've got that right here. This is 8 inches square, but I'm going to turn this into a 12-inch pillow. I'll be using a generic 12-inch pillow form. You can buy them online, buy them in craft shops. I want to seal the back of my piece. I'm going to show you how to use Podge Fabric to do that, and I like to do that with a sponge brush. To bring this up to size, I'm going to be adding some fabric around the piece. I have this jelly roll strip from the Pixie Noel fabric line. It's a nice red with white dots. It goes really well with the colors on this punch needle. I'll be using that to border my piece. And for backing, I have this fun Christmas print. It's called Cozy Christmas. The selvage says it's from 2016. It's Lori Holt, Riley Blake Designs. You can see it's a different red. It wouldn't look good as the border for this, but for backing, this is going to be just fine. We'll be making an envelope back for our pillow. I'm also going to add some pom-pom trim. I have Simplicity 1 1/8 inch size. This is a 12-yard spool, whatever you want to call it. I make a lot of pillows. I do cross-stitch finishing. You can buy it like this. You can buy it by the yard. If you don't like the way it looks, you don't have to do the palm trim. You could leave it off and it'll look just fine. I'm going to turn my project around to the back side. You can see it's kind of a mess. There's lots of yarn tails everywhere. If they're really long, you can trim them. If you look close, you can probably even see the embroidery thread stretching across the back of the piece. That's from when I did the little stems and attaching the beads. I just kept using one piece of thread and dragging it across the back because you're never going to see it. In order to make a pillow, we're going to have to take it out of this frame. Before we do that, I want to secure all my yarn, all my hard work. Have a look at the front of your piece, get in there close, make sure there's no little loops popping up, nothing that needs to be pulled to the back. That's one thing about punch needle. Here's one that could probably be pulled to the back. You can get behind it and pull the yarn, and I have my finger on it on the front. It's right there. I can feel it on the front side. Now it's tighter. So if you have any loops that are sticking way up, just go to the back of your piece and you can pull them down and make sure that they're nice and flat. I want to secure all my threads, but I don't want it to be hard and chunky. Podge makes a product, Podge Fabric. This dries clear and it dries flexible and it's washable. You can get it online, you can get it in craft stores. I'll show you what this looks like if you've never worked with it. It looks like Elmer's glue. It's white and it's gooey. If you get this and it's super thick, you can add water to it. It won't harm it at all. It gives you detailed instructions on the back, and it talks about applying, letting dry 2 hours, and applying a sealer. You don't need to do that. I've done this on my punch needle before. We're going to apply a coat, let it dry. Might be 2 hours, might be 4 hours, might be a day. It depends on how thick you apply it, and frankly, if it's humid. If you're in a humid climate, it's going to take longer to dry. I use one of these craft sponge brushes, and all you do is just squish it on. You don't have to worry about it being neat. It can be ugly. It can be goopy. The thicker it is, the longer it takes to dry. But I like to make sure that I really get in there and get all of my yarn, because it does provide a very nice seal to the back of your punch needle. I'm all done. Now I need to wait for this to dry. The reason I like to do this is it really does secure your yarn, especially if you're making a pillow. For this kit, we have the felt leaves and the beads, so no one's probably going to be sitting on this or leaning on this. But let's say you just did a regular punch needle, or maybe you do this one and you leave off the embellishments. You want to put this on your couch, you want people to be able to use the pillow, you want to make sure all your hard work, all your yarn is secure on the back side. You don't want it pulling out to the front. I'm going to set this aside and wait for it to dry. I let my piece dry overnight. Let's look at the back. That's what the Mod Podge looks like when it's dry. It looks a little plasticky, but it's soft. Regular Mod Podge will be hard. I've used that on the back of punch needle before, and that works as well, especially if you just want to leave it in the frame and hang it. You can use the regular, but since we're making this a pillow, I use the fabric kind. That keeps it nice and soft. Now that it's dry, we want to remove it from the frame. I did try using my screwdriver to see if I could pry up one of these staples. I think these are put in by staple gun. They're in there really well. So we're going to just remove it from the frame using our seam ripper. This is going to fray. This is a woven material. I'm going to put it right here, kind of closer to the back side than the front, and then just gently start going through it. You can see it's fraying already, so be ready for a little bit of a mess. I think I may switch to my scissors to give me a little bit of a cleaner cut. Let's try some scissors. I have these really sharp Karen K Buckley scissors. Let's try that and see if that helps a little bit with the fraying. I know it's going to fray no matter what, but that seam ripper isn't exactly the sharpest seam ripper. That's better. So the seam ripper gets it started. If you've got a really sharp seam ripper, I think that'll be fine. I've gone all the way around. I ended up doing a combination of scissors and seam ripper. Make sure all the edges are loose. And now remember, we use the Mod Podge. Don't grab this and just yank to get it out of the frame, because you may have some pieces of yarn stuck to the frame. What you want to do is just go around it gently. If anything is really stuck, a couple areas of mine feel a little bit more stuck. I'm actually going to use a spatula because that will slip inside and get this separated. I have this nice skinny hard spatula. It's got a beveled edge. This came with a brownie pan that looks like that, so it cooks the brownies evenly. You may have one of these. I want to push this direction. I don't want to pull up my piece and chance pulling out any of the yarn. I'm going to carefully go around just like that. It's really easy to do. If anything is too stuck, like you can't get it away, you can wet this. It'll help loosen it and it'll come off. We're out of the frame. You can set this aside. You can use it for another craft project. This is a really nice looking frame. I know I'm saving this. I'll probably use it for a cross stitch piece. Next, we're going to add our fabric border. Something to be careful of with this piece in particular. You see this leaf, how it goes past the yarn. This goes past the yarn. This goes past the yarn. I want to get those tucked up and out of the way. I don't accidentally want to sew over those. I have some Kimberbell paper tape. I'm just going to peel them back and add a little piece of tape. It's not going to harm the fabric or anything, or the yarn. Next, I'm going to double check my measurements. It should be 8 inches square. 8 inches, 8 inches. Yep, it looks like 8 inches square. I've got a lot of extra fabric here. I'm going to take my rotary cutter and get rid of some of this. What I'm going to do is cut right along that line from the frame. That's an easy way to do that. It would be really hard to put your ruler down and cut because of all the bulk from the yarn. I just want to clean this up a little bit, get rid of some of the excess. This is all cleaned up. I'm going to set it aside for a moment. I've measured my jelly roll strip very, very tight. It's just going to make it. I think I've got about ½ an inch to spare, so I need to be really careful when I cut this. I need to get rid of the selvage edge on this, right at the edge. And I want 2 strips 8 inches long to start. There's my 8. Have my 2 fabric strips, my punch needle right side up. We need to be really careful for any of the places where there's the little leaf to make sure we don't sew over those leaves. Make sure you've got it taped and out of the way. I'm going to be sewing as close to, if not possibly on, a little bit of the yarn from my outside row. Place this just like I was working with 2 pieces of fabric. So right side of my punch needle, right side of my fabric together. I'm going to pin right along this outside line of stitching. I think that's going to help me keep this straight. Double check, make sure that you're not going to catch any of those leaves. That all looks good. I know I need at least 1/4 of an inch. So these are taped out of the way. I'm going to go down whole piece. What I want to do is make sure it's straight. So I'm going to do that end first and then this end. And I'm going to do something which might look weird. but I actually do that when I do this when I make quilts too. I'll show you. Not only pinning the corners, but also pinning right here. Making sure that this is staying straight. Grabbing that there. Now I know my edges are straight, and you can see it's kind of bowing. That's because of all of this bulk. I'm going to pin the middle next. It'll work just fine. Your fabric strip, unless you've starched it to the point of crispiness, the fabric can be pulled or worked in. Again, trying to make sure I'm lining up right along that yarn. And I know I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance because that's what I always do with everything that I sew from habit from quilting. You could always use a larger seam allowance if you want. Just remember to be careful of those little leaves that are in here. You can see I use quite a few pins. This is really bulky and a little bit awkward, so make sure you've got everything pinned exactly how you want it. We're going to head over to the sewing machine. I'm going to be using my Juki TL2020 PE today. This is a straight stitch only machine. There's a couple feet I've been looking at for doing this project. This is the regular 1/4 inch no guide foot. I decided not to use that. I want to use something with a guide to help me make sure that I get this as straight as possible. The foot that's on the machine is called a compensating foot. Can you see how thick this guide is? It's so much thicker than a regular guide. The regular guide is very thin. This automatically raises up that presser foot a little bit, and it helps with things like quilt binding and quilted materials. However, when you put the punch needle underneath, it's still really thick. I've got the pressure foot raised all the way. I'm going to put it down. You can see how it squishes. I need to raise my presser foot. Your machine probably has an adjustment for that. Mine is this knob here at the top. I want to go ahead and raise it. I need more room. I'm going to turn it all the way. See the little line moving? So it gets to the bottom, so I have the most room as possible. I want to line this up with the edge of my jelly roll fabric, not the edge of this fabric, with the edge of the jelly roll fabric. If you like hand sewing, you could also hand sew this. This wouldn't be all that difficult to hand sew. I just don't like to hand sew. Let's go ahead and set the foot down. And I don't sew over pins. I'm going to go forward and make sure I catch the edge of this fabric. Just going slow. And pull out that first pin. I've got the first few stitches in. I'm just going to go slow with this. Kind of pulling this to make sure this doesn't get stuck and making sure my strip stays flat using my hand on top. I had no problem at all sewing through that. Raising the foot definitely helped. My stitches look good. I have a stitch length of 2 in case anybody's using a Juki. Let's take a look at this. Looks good. Look at that. Right along the edge. I did take up some of the yarn. Oops, I caught my little berry in the seam. Do you see that? But that's okay. You can fluff it when it's done. Excellent. Nice and straight. Use those pins, everybody. That came out really good. I was a little worried about that. And I didn't catch my little leaf. I'm going to take that tape off very carefully because, again, you don't want to yank your yarn loops out. Even though you've got the Mod Podge on the back, you want to be careful. You spend a lot of time making this. Looks good. This is going to look really nice. Let's sew the next side. Going to do the same thing. Start at the top, get the first few stitches in. You may have to pull that monk's cloth just a bit. And take out the pins. Here we go. I can tell this one is not quite as straight as the other one. It looks really good. I have no concerns about not having a perfectly straight seam here because this is going to be a pillow. If it's not perfectly straight, don't worry about it. I'm going to take this tape off and we're going to head back over to the table. We've got our first 2 seams on. I've taken the tape off. My little leaves look great. We have some extra fabric here. You can trim it, you can leave it, it's not going to matter, it's going to be a pillow. What I want to do now is measure this. I'm going to cut the selvage off of this. This is the nail biter portion of the video. Cue the suspenseful music. I'm going to cut that right at the very edge of that selvage. I'm going to fold it in half. Do I have enough? Oh my goodness. Look at that. If I hold this right here, we smooth it out. I've got 0 extra. That's exact. So I want to fold my strip in half and then cut it on the fold line. I really cut it close. What if the strip was too short? Let's say it ended up where I matched it on one end and we stretch it across and, oh, I don't have enough. All I would do is just cut a little bit off of each end. Instead of having a 2-inch border, I might have an 1.5 inch border. I'm going to follow the same process. We're all pinned. Let's head over to the sewing machine. Same process as before. I think the thing that's going to help you have the most success with this is to go slow. Make sure to give yourself time to do this. And remember, it's a pillow. If you make a mistake, it's going to be big, fluffy, and squishy, and nobody's going to see it anyway. I'm going to start and go forward and backward right at the top, making sure that's anchored, and we're going to stitch just like we did before. Let's have a look at this one. I almost ran over one of the beads. Looks great. Wonderful. You can see I actually have just a little bit of extra fabric on the edge there and there, so I'll trim that up and even it up. I'm going to take the tape off and go stitch the other side. I think I might have run off my intended line. Yeah, see how crooked that is? It's just a little too crooked. You can see how it's just going up, 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 up. It slipped because of the bead. I seam ripped all the way back to the beginning. Let's get a look at this one. It looks just fine. We are back at the table. I'm going to flip it to the back. I'm just going to finger press these seams. I don't feel the need to take this to my iron. I'd be too concerned with the glue. I need to straighten any of the border edges like here that are too long. We'll cut the extra off. The next thing I'm going to do is add my trim. If you're confident in your sewing, you can add your trim and sew on your backing at the same time. I've done that before. I find I get better results if I add the trim first and then add my backing. It's easier, it's less stressful. I don't do this very scientifically as far as measuring. Just kind of go 1, 2, all my sides are the same. I'm going to measure 4 sides, 3, 4, and twist it. And I'm going to give myself about half a side's length to account for going around the corners, maybe a little more. This one's a little wonky. Right about there. I went ahead and measured that. It's an extra 7 inches. So if you want, you could measure your sides, add up the total, and then I added an extra 7 inches just to allow for going around the corners. Anything extra I might need as I sew. We're going to pin this down. I think I probably want that at the top because this is sticking the furthest out. This side has 2. I'm going to use this as my bottom side. Where you start pinning is personal preference. I don't like to start at the edges because as we go around the edges, it tends to make a curve. I find it too bulky. Another thing you could do with this kind of trim, stitch one side, cut it off, stitch another, you can certainly do that. I'm going to pin. Note which direction the pom-poms are going. They're pointing towards the center of the piece. You don't want to sew them like this. Think of this as a piece of fabric, right sides together. Your pom-poms have to go inside because we're going to sew these down and then we're going to do right sides together with our backing fabric and then flip it right side out. And when you flip it right side out, these will stand out toward the outside of the piece. We're coming up on a corner, sort of fold and roll if that makes sense. And I'll be honest, there's probably a more precise way to do this. My corners are never perfect. My square pillows always have a bit of a rounded corner. Not worried about it. The idea is to enjoy what you're doing and have something that you like at the end of your project, and it will look good. Again, it's a pillow. Pillows are very forgiving. Before I start sewing, I switch to my foot with no guide. This is the skinniest foot that I have. We're going to be bumping right up against these pom-poms. The skinny foot's helpful. I also adjusted the presser foot height back to normal, and I used a piece of scrap fabric to do a tension check. You want to make sure that your machine is now ready to be stitching regular fabric and not the big bulky piece we were just working with. If you want, you can use a foot with a guide. What I'm going to attempt to do is use this as my guide, the outside edge of the foot. I do have a regular 1/4 inch foot with a guide, but this part of the presser foot is wider and it bumps against the pom-poms. I'm going to go back and forth and anchor this down. We're just going to sew slow. You can see I already need to adjust this. I'll probably just pull out all the pins. One of the things you need to be careful about is that you don't accidentally twist as you're sewing this on, so make sure it stays flat. We're coming up on a corner. I want to go extra slow, and also you can see my fingers here. This and this little piece here that holds the thread, I don't know the technical names for them. This is just the screw to change your needle. These will bang into your fingers and they hurt, so be careful if you've got your hands close to your machine. That's the advantage to pinning or clipping. You won't do that. We're going to approach the corner, and I'm just going to sort of crush it and make it turn. I'm not worried about how this looks. This is going to get caught with your backing. I want to try and line it up as close to the outside edge as I can. I'm going to turn. Am I about 1/4 inch? Yeah, close enough. Again, not worried about it. Really, don't worry about it being perfect. Looks like I could have taken one more stitch. I've got a little bit more space. Let's go back for one stitch. 1 or 2. Yep, right there. Turn. Keep the pom-poms out of the way. And keep going all the way around. Let's work through another corner, and then the rest I'll just put to music. I'm trying to get as close to probably about 1/4 inch as I can. Just sort of lift your foot, turn it, squish it. You might need to grab something like a seam ripper or a stiletto to get it pulled. That looks good. Got it right to the corner. I'm going to take a few more stitches. Oh, one too many. Did you see that? I was heavy on the presser foot. I'm going to back up, turn. Make sure you don't twist your pom-pom strand. Line it all up again and continue the rest of the way around your pillow. We're coming up on our join. Here's where I started. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. I've kind of got two right on top of each other. Couple things you can do. If I pull this, they're actually pretty much right on top of each other. I can get rid of this palm. I can cut the little string that's right there and pull this up and out of the way. And then I'll have that much space between these two. Or you can try and bunch it and make it fit, but I think I'm going to get rid of this. These are almost exactly on top of each other. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut this string right here. It's going to pull that one out, get it up and out of the way. Oh, that's perfect. See that? It would have laid right on top of that. Okay, I'm going to completely cut that off. I just wanted to check. Now it's going to lay nice and flat. We're back at the table. I've got extra hair. I'm going to cut this off. Let's measure this. Remember I gave myself 7 inches. It looks like I didn't need nearly that much. This is a 5-inch ruler. I have about 5 3/4 inches. So I definitely gave myself plenty extra. You can save this, use it for another project. Before I attach my backing, I'm going to check, especially my corners, make sure nothing is pulling up. Make sure I have that stitched down. It looks good. Now we're going to do the envelope back. I'm going to measure my pillow. It should be about 12 inches. It's a little shy of 12 inches. I'm going to go with 12 inches and then I'll put my pillow on top of it and check it before I sew it on. When we make an envelope back, we want the pieces on the back to overlap. I have a horrible habit of cutting them too short. I've got a 12-inch square. I'm going to cut my pieces 12 by 11. I know that's going to give me plenty. I have 2 pieces of fabric here, 12 by 11. This length is the 12-inch. I'm going to grab my project. Really scientific here, folks. I'm going to lay it down on top. I'm going to smooth it. That's a good fit. 12 is a good fit. Sometimes when I do this, even though I measure, I'll find that I've got maybe an inch extra fabric and I need to trim that off. I'm going to grab one piece of fabric here. I'm going to fold it over. I have plenty of fabric here. If you're working with less fabric, you can fold it a little tighter. I'm just going to fold it and go press it. Same thing with this piece. Here's my 2 pieces of fabric. Something I thought of as I was pressing it. If you have extra fabric like I do, like these, and you've got a big fold over, you could have put some stitch witchery or something in there and iron it down, and you're ready to go. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine though, put a little top stitch on this here and here. That's going to hold this in place. Here's what that looks like. Just a simple straight stitch. I want to make sure all my little pom-poms are pointing in. I like to do one side at a time for this. Some people like to go all the way around. I do one side at a time. That way if I mess up, it's easy to rip it out. You can see I'm going to have way more overlap than I need with this. One piece is going to go like this, and one piece will go like that. Do you see how much overlap I have? But just for fun, let's work with the big giant piece. You're going to lay down one piece, right sides together with your punch needle, pin or clip. I'm going to start by pinning the corner, pinning my other corner, and be careful with your palms. This is kind of turned. I didn't do a very good job on that corner. Can you see that? I'll deal with it. It'll be fine. No worries. Just pin it. Go with it. I'll be just fine. Now this is the way I like to do this. You may find that you're fine laying it all down, one piece, the other piece, and doing the whole thing. I'm just going to stitch this and anchor it down. It's just going to be a straight stitch, so I'll go ahead and do that off camera. Going to line up, use my 1/4 inch seam allowance, go all the way down. Here's that seam. Just like that. That's the only seam I stitched to start with. I can double check and make sure I didn't accidentally catch any of my pom-poms in the seam. I'm going to fold this back over, and then I'm going to stitch the next 2 sides. I've got all 3 sides stitched down. Now I need to take my other piece and stitch it in the other direction. You can see, again, I do have a big overlap. You did not need a piece of fabric that big. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stitch this seam first. Anchor that down, make sure it's straight, open it up, check, did I catch any of the palms, make sure it's good. Then I'll put it back down and I'll stitch the side seams. I'm stitched all the way around. If you want, you can clip your corners. I'm not going to clip my corners for this. This is going to be a bulky pillow. It's got the big punch needle on the front. I don't see a reason to clip the corners. Also, if you want, you can get rid of any of this extra monk's cloth on the inside. Let's flip it. See how it looks. Make sure I didn't catch any pom-poms in the seams. I didn't check the last seams as I was sewing. We'll call that living dangerously in the crafting world. How's that? So check all your corners. If you want, you can get a point turner. Let's take a look at it. I didn't catch any of the palms. Nice and clean. This probably can be back about 3 inches. 12 by 8 or 9 would have been fine. Let's look at the front. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I'm so excited. This fabric is perfect for this. You can see I've got a little bit of a fold, a little bit of a bump. My corners aren't perfect. We're going to put our pillow form in. I'm going to try and poke out that corner just a bit more. Looks good. Let's grab our pillow form. I'm going to leave the tags on so I remember the brand. I did order these off of Amazon. They came in a 4-pack. It's a 12-inch pillow form. We're starting on the back. Because I had such a big overlap, I really had to stretch to get in here. See? Don't cut your piece that big. I'll make sure I put something on the screen before now to warn you. And I had some difficulty with some of the corners. So what I did was I actually have some polyfill, and I just put some in here, pushed it in to fill the corners. And I opened this pillow form last night, and I put it in the dryer to fluff, and I couldn't get the corners to come out very nice on this one. Let's turn it around to the front. Here we go. I hope this looks good. Oh, it's so pretty. Look at that. That looks really nice. I can see right here on the bottom, that's where I trimmed that extra pom-pom. So I'm going to cut that little tiny piece off. If you've got any stuff on it, grab your lint roller. A couple of my beads seem a little bit looser because I've been fussing with it, so I'm going to put some glue underneath those just to make sure they're secure. That's what I'm going to use. It'll be fine for the beads, this or a glue gun. But honestly, it's ready to go. I could put this on a shelf for display. I don't have to glue anything. That's just me being cautious. I need to work the pillow form a little bit so it doesn't look like it's going to explode, but Gosh, isn't that pretty? Look at that. Let me prop it up and get another angle for that. Here it is, punch needle pillow with fabric and pom-pom trim. This will look really good nestled in with lots of other Christmas decor. I do need to squish that pillow form down a little bit. It's looking a little bit extra poofy. Could you picture this with your Christmas decor? Maybe you've got some little miniature trees on the side. Put it on the fireplace mantle with some of your other Christmas decor. Or maybe give this as a gift to somebody for the holidays. I hope you've enjoyed making a pillow out of the Happy Holidays Punch Needle Plus Kit by Kimberbell. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Leave any comments or questions for me below the video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you next time.